Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. On behalf of the Environmental Finance Center Network, I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar, How to Motivate Your Employees and Keep Your Customers Happy. My name is Tess Clark. I work here at the Syracuse University Environmental Finance Center. And before we get started with our program, I'm just going to quickly go over some logistics and talk briefly about the Environmental Finance Center Network and our Smart Management for Small Water Systems project. Okay, so I'm happy to report that we have a diverse audience for today's webinar. You can see that we have attendees from all over the world joining us today, an impressive turnout, over 200 people registered, almost 230. And I know many of you are interested in receiving certificates of attendance. For this webinar, certificates of attendance will be provided by the American Water Works Association. For attendees who have an AWWA customer record, your certificate will be uploaded within 30 days. For attendees who do not have an AWWA customer record, you will receive an email from AWWA requesting you to create one by a specific date, and you will need that to receive your certificate. If you do not create a record, you will not receive a certificate. In order to get credit, such as a CEU, for attending this webinar, which I know is important to a lot of folks, you need to check with your licensing agency. It's your responsibility to make sure this webinar meets your agency's rules and criteria for credit. Okay, so this session is one of a series of webinars conducted by the Environmental Finance Center Network. The EFCN provides training and technical assistance to small public water systems in all 50 states and 5 territories. We do this to help local water systems achieve and maintain compliance with the Safe Drinking Water Act. And here you can take a look at our small systems team. Our network, extends across the U.S. We have centers in all major regions. Okay, and here you can see the areas of expertise that the EFCN focuses on. We focus on workshops, trainings, and direct technical assistance on a variety of topics that you can see here, and this includes energy management, water loss reduction, asset management, and a variety of others. The EFCN also has a small systems blog. You can learn more about water finance and management through this blog. Blog posts feature lessons learned from our trainings and technical assistance, descriptions of available tools, and small system success stories. You will also have the opportunity to subscribe to the blog at the end of the webinar. One last EFCN resource I want to point out to you before we get to our presentation is our online funding resources map. This tool can help you find the major funding sources for drinking water for each state and territory. This is how you access those tables. On the EFCN homepage, go to Resources and then click Funding Sources by State. This will take you to a map of the country. If you click on the state you are interested in, you will find a PDF table of the relevant funding sources for drinking water for that state. The table looks like the image on the left of the slide. For each funding program, it includes the name of the program, a short description, and contact information for someone who works at the program. Okay, so before we turn the program over to our presenters, we just have 2 questions to get us started today. The first is, what kind of water and/or sewer utility do you represent? So just select one of the following: for-profit system, local government, not-for-profit, or other water utility. And you can also select here if you are not a water system. Okay, it looks like we are close to everyone voting. I'm just going to give you a couple more seconds to put in your response. Okay, and it looks like we are just about complete, so I'm now closing this poll. And great, so it looks like we have a majority of folks joining us from local government. We also have a pretty decent number of other utilities, so authorities, school districts, etc. 14% of you are not-for-profits, and 8% are not a water system, and just a minority, 3%, are for-profit systems. Okay. And secondly, what size water and/or sewer system does your utility operate? And just select the best one here based on the number of people you serve. So that ranges from very small, small, medium, large, or not a water system. I'm just going to give you a couple more seconds here to get your responses in. It looks like we're almost complete with our voting. All right, and it looks like everyone's just about done, so I'm now closing this poll. Great, so it looks like we have some sort of even distributions between small, medium, and large. The majority of folks are joining us from a medium water system. We also have 22% from our large water systems and 27% from small. Just 9% here are not water systems, and just a small minority is very small, less than 500 people served. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to be turning our presentation over to our presenters, Tanya Braun-Louis and Leslie Kimball, who will be discussing strategies for motivating employees and driving customer satisfaction. Tanya is the program manager at the Environmental Finance Center at Wichita State University, and Leslie is the marketing and events coordinator, also based at the Environmental Finance Center at WSU. So I'm going to be switching presenters here, and I know we will be launching into another poll shortly as well. Great. Okay, so Tanya, you can take it away. I'm going to get you started with your poll.
Okay. All right, hold on. I have to find the sharing. It didn't pop up. Where'd it go?
Oh, I can help with that. Let's see.
Oh. Did I get it?
You got it. Okay, great. So let me just start us off with our poll today.
Okay.
And today we're just asking you at work, how happy are you with your water utility employees? So select the response here that makes the most sense for you. Very unhappy and never happy. Not really happy, but not super unhappy. Sort of happy, like halfway between happy and unhappy. Pretty happy, not too many unhappy employees, or very happy and almost no unhappy employees. It looks like we have...
If you think about all your staff, how happy do you think they are, or unhappy?
So it looks like we have almost everyone participating. I'm going to give you just a couple more seconds here. All right, and I am now closing this poll. Here's the results today. Wow, so it looks like we have a majority of people coming in with that their employees are pretty happy and not too many unhappy employees. We also have a couple people, 36% of us are in the middle, sort of happy, kind of half and half. And then we have 10% kind of at a very happy level with no unhappy employees. And then almost 9% are not happy, but not super unhappy. And only 1% today is very unhappy. So that is a very good sign.
Good.
Okay, so I'm going to hide these results now.
All right, well, that's good news. I am glad we're sort of on the happier end of the scale, most of us. And hopefully today through this presentation, we learned just a few tips and tricks and things you might try to kind of keep us on that happy employee end. So I'm Tanya, and I am one of two folks that will be talking to you today. I'll be talking about motivating your employees or keep helping your employees be happy in their work and in where they work. And then Leslie's going to take it away and talk about customers and that customer relationship and how to have customers happy with your water utility. We are both happy employees of the Environmental Finance Center at Wichita State University in the middle of the U.S. In Kansas. And so our goal today is just to help you find a few things that you can grab onto to try out with your staff and with your customers. Happy employees are 20% more productive than unhappy employees. And so, you know, we're here, we're doing this, and we're talking about this so that your workplace is more efficient, your employees are doing better at their work, but also just because we all want to be happy in the places that we work, and who wants to go to a job that they hate or hate working there. So we're gonna make sure that people like where they work and are really productive in what they're doing. because our water systems are great. We've got great infrastructure. We've got pipes and pumps and technology. It's all awesome, but without our employees, they're our most important asset, because without them, eventually our water system's going to fail. They're the ones that we need to spend some time doing a little asset management with those people so that they are there for the long run, are of the highest quality, and we're not losing them and turning over quickly. So the first thing we want to do is talk about how to identify that unhappy employee. I'm guessing most of us don't have 100% happy employees at our offices. So let's think about who works with us and see, do we have anyone that's unhappy? My husband hates, that businessy lingo, those the office-y words that people create, and, engaged employees is one of those types of words. But basically when we're talking about engaged employees or engaged staff, are they happy? Are they happy with what they're doing, where they work, with the work that they're doing? So engaged and happy we're going to use kind of interchangeably, because if you're happy with your work, you're engaged. Engaged folks give their best every day. They're committed to the organization's goals and values, and they're motivated to contribute to the success of the water system where they work. It doesn't mean engaged employees or happy employees never have a bad day or they're never frustrated with something going on at the office, but overall they care about the work that they do and where they work. So an unhappy employee is probably late on a regular basis. We're all late sometimes, but, chronic lateness, not caring about being late, or having that attitude that, I could come in or I couldn't come in, it doesn't matter either way. And engaged employees, they're the ones that are there on time, that show up at meetings and job sites when they're supposed to. And then, we all know a couple people like this. They're unhappy with their job. They're only doing the bare minimum to keep their job. They're not going above and beyond. They're probably not even meeting like the basic standard of their work. They're doing just enough to get by. And so, engaged employees, they're doing their job. They're going above and beyond. They want to do good work. And then unhappy employees, they're the ones, they're either causing fights or they're isolating themselves from the group of folks that work together. So, it's either they're not part of the group and they don't want to be, and they purposely avoid interacting with the other team members, or they're interacting, but their interactions aren't very helpful. They might be picking fights or just, causing trouble between their other team members. So engaged employees, if they don't, doesn't mean they have to be, going out on Friday nights with all their coworkers to be engaged, but you can be engaged and like the people you work with and work with them in a good way. But, you don't have to be best friends, but you know what a good team member looks like. They talk to each other, they work well together, they're getting the job done with the group. And then finally, it's just an overall attitude thing. I mean, you can tell an unhappy employee when their attitude is just bad. They don't care. They foster, they talk bad about the organization or about people that they work with, and we want people that are engaged, have positive attitudes about work. So we want to foster those things. And we all have bad days where, I've had bad days where I've had bad attitudes about work. But overall, what is that overall attitude that the employee has about the job and the work that they're doing? So I have a little story. It's about my friend Jordan. He is about to become a dad for the first time. And so we were sitting around talking about parenting, and he was talking about how his mom used to, when she gave him a hug or, gave him, tucked him in for bed, she'd always say, she'd give him a hug and say, I'm going to fill up your love cup. Or she would say, come over here and I'm going to fill your love cup, or give your love cup a refill, and she'd give him a big old hug. And that made me kind of think about what employees want. They want a full cup. Now, we're not going to go around hugging our employees to make them feel better, but, we want our cups full of connection and purpose. These are our cups for job satisfaction. We want to be encouraged by our work and challenged and have a trusting relationship with all of our coworkers. So we want that full cup feeling. I think this analogy paints a good picture of, how that affirmation fills us with good feelings. Everyone has a cup, and, whether it's some days it's fuller than others, but, overall, we can tell the happy employees, their cups are full of those traits that you can see there on the slide. And so we want to make sure that as managers and people, even just as coworkers, we're helping fill up the cups of our fellow employees or our staff. So the first thing we can do to do a little asset management for our staff, or thinking about our staff members, is to take their temperature. Think about each of your staff members individually. Where are they at on this scale? Are they disinterested in their work? They don't care about it. They're kind of like that guy that's like, well, if it's not mandatory, I'm not going to do it. They're kind of over it. Are they engaged? Are they kind of right in that sweet spot of a happy employee? Are they frustrated? Is their temperature starting to rise and they're getting a little frustrated with work, whether it's the job or people, or the people that they work with? Or are they just like over the top, bursting out of the temperature gauge, just angry and causing drama and just kind of spilling poison into the workplace? Think about each person. Think about, put everybody in a bucket. And some days, again, think about the big picture, not just a specific day. And after you've taken the temperature individually, think about the group as a whole. Where are you at? Can we move the needle a little bit and get everybody to that happy green temperature gauge? Hopefully you've got most people in the green zone. We might have some orange or blues. Hopefully you don't have very many on that red scale. And when you're thinking about, after we take the temperature and you're thinking about what and who to address first, start working with the blue and the orange. Don't start with the hardest cases, because sometimes they might be so far gone, there's nothing you can do to fix it. And you might pour a lot of energy into not moving that needle very far. And so, start with some of the folks that, just a few small changes, a conversation might get them to green. So after you've taken the temperature and you've kind of thought about it, strategically just start with one tough conversation, with the person that you think you can really connect with and figure out what's going on and how to turn that unhappy employee into an engaged employee. Address their concerns. You want to be unbiased. Remember, it's not personal. Try not to get those personal feelings involved. And then start the dialogue and then listen. Really, just in that first conversation, ask them some questions about how they've been feeling about their work or their coworkers or whatever you think the problem might be, and then just listen. Let them talk. Let them know it's going to be sort of a process, and so that, in this first meeting, they get to share their side of the story, maybe reflect on what you're seeing after they've told you how they're feeling about whatever's being frustrating at work. And then, let them talk. And then when they've shared, if there's something easy that's fixable that you could address right away, great. If not, maybe just say, okay, we're going to take some time. I've heard you. I'm going to create a response plan and then get back with them in a short amount, like a couple days or a week, but don't let it go too long, just within a week for sure. Come back with a response plan. Like, here's what we're going to do to address the situation that's making you feel frustrated. Remain calm, create a safe environment, make sure that they know that what they're sharing with you is confidential, and then make sure that it stays confidential just between you two. In that response plan, in that process that you create to address their concerns, have things that you work on and that you both are working on things that, likely whatever the problems are that's creating this frustration isn't one-sided. It's, it's probably something that could be addressed from a management level, and if it's something that might be done with a little attitude or a behavior adjustment from the staff member too, and create a plan that addresses both of those areas so that you're both working on something, so that the staff member knows that you're concerned and willing to make some changes and put some effort towards their concerns. So that's a good way to move that needle and help those folks that are feeling unhappy, moving them towards that happy green temperature gauge. So how do we get, so once we've got some of the major frustrations or some of those things that we can address, a plan to start addressing them, what can you as an employer do or a manager do to help those employees have full cups and feel like their cups are full of all this good stuff so that they like working where they work? And as we talk about these things that management can do, and I know that in a lot of times the staff member, it's not always just work that's causing the bad attitude or the lateness or the fights between coworkers. It's not just stuff that's work related, but remember, as an employer, as that manager of these folks, you might be the only person pouring good things into their cups at home, out there in the world with their family or their friends. They might not be getting any input of good things into their cup from those places, but if you can start filling their cups with some good things on the work side, that's going to have huge impacts for what they're willing to give to their workplace if their workplace is giving them those good things. So my second analogy for the day is manage as a coach. As you're managing these folks and directing these folks in their work, think about a really good coach. And there are some things that coaches do that as managers we can do to really start pouring those good things into the professional cups of the people that work for you. So they can be more engaged and do really good work. Now, I'm not a super sporty person, and so this is a really loose analogy, and I'm sure someone else that's really into sports can dive in deeper to this analogy, but stay on the surface with me. We'll work together. All right, the first thing that coaches do that we can use as managers is to share the purpose. A lot of times as coaches, they develop a plan and they share their plan. Like this guy, he is sharing the plays that he developed to score points with his team. If he was coaching and made up all these plays and then didn't share them with his team, that team would be going nowhere. They wouldn't win any games. It would, what's he even there for if he's not sharing the big picture purpose and telling his team what the plan is? And so as a manager, you can get your staff behind you by sharing that big picture plan. As a manager, it's your job to develop the big picture plan and to kind of adjust that as needed and to think about it, but then be sure to share that plan with your staff, because if they know where the whole big ship is heading, they're going to be more willing to get behind you and work towards that goal. And then, let me see. So regularly talk with your staff about the workplace's overall mission. What's this? We're working on this big report, or we're collecting all this data. Why are we doing that? What's the big picture for why we're doing this? Relate it back to those reasons that, you work where you work. I mean, you're a water utility. You're making sure that your community is safe, that the water that they drink is reliable and affordable. So, those core missions that your utility has, protecting the environment, people can get around those. No one's going to be like, no, that's not what we want to do. So relate all, even if it's a task that nobody wants to do. It's kind of like practice and doing drills. Nobody wants to do this menial task, but if they know that they're doing that because, we'll save money in the long run and keep the water affordable, or we're doing this so we can conserve water so we can keep, we don't have to spend a lot of money to build a new water source, that sort of thing. So make sure they know how their work fits into the big picture. Share those big pictures. And then make sure that each team member knows what their role is. Kind of that same way, like coach isn't going to tell everybody to do all the parts of the play. That, you know, the forwards have a certain job, and what's the guy? Oh no. See, I'm losing all my basketball positions. But each basketball position, they all know what their role is and what part they play. Make sure you're sharing that with your team that you work with. And here's my pop culture reference, because I had to go, I'm more of a pop culture person than a sports person. So Daniel was the Karate Kid, but before he ever learned karate, Mr. Miyagi, his coach, gave him all these menial tasks to do. He had to wax the car and paint the fence and all those things. And he's like, he gets kind of whiny about it, and he's disgruntled and unhappy. Why am I doing all this work? You just want a slave, that kind of thing, until he realizes that Mr. Miyagi is giving him these things to build his muscles and develop his reaction time so that he can become a superstar Karate Kid that beats the Cobra Kai dojo in the big tournament. And yes, I did say all of that in a professional webinar. If you haven't seen this movie, you have plans for the weekend. So, but the whole point is, make sure you're sharing the overall big picture with your staff, because that promotes good working relationships. You're filling their cup with information and that purpose. Second thing coaches do is they communicate. Real-time feedback. You know, coaches don't wait till the end of the year banquet to tell their players, you did good at this. You really should work on this. You know, you need to get more strength so you can do these things, or I want to move you to a different position. No, they tell them in the moment, during the game, while the projects are going on. We can use that as managers. People want real-time feedback, not just kind of the end of the year evaluation, but as projects are going on, you know, tell them great job when they do a great job. Tell them thank you when they go above and beyond. Talk to them have a short conversation about what worked during this project, what didn't work. You know, how can we do things differently next time? That regular ongoing communication, you're filling their cup, you're helping them improve, you're giving them appreciation. All of those things help them, helps fill their cup and helps them feel better about the work that they're doing. Third thing you can do, like a coach does, is advocate for your players. Build the trust. You know, as a manager, have your staff's backs. Like coaches do when refs make bad calls, they let the ref know, you know, when they take the side of their players. You want to do that as a manager. If it's, you know, if there's a discipline thing that needs to happen, make sure that you do that in private, and you're always having your employees' backs in public. Build that trust, because then in reverse, they're going to also support you and the utility and have their backs and be a big supporter of their employer. And yeah. And then, of course, coaches, they encourage, they motivate. That's their whole job. And the best player, or the best coaches, know how to get the most out of their players without yelling. A lot of times we think of coaches as like the yelly ones, but the ones that are the best are the ones that know how to motivate, you know, kind of in the background. They quietly motivate, or they motivate loudly, but not in a negative way. The number one reason most Americans leave jobs is that they don't feel appreciated. In fact, 65% of people surveyed said they got no recognition for the good work they did in the last year. That's huge, when all it takes is a good job, way to go, you know, as throughout the year, that ongoing feedback doesn't take a lot. You don't have to have a big, you know, awards banquet, you know, just tell people when they do well. You know, you can recognize professional accomplishments. If one of your staff members have a celebration donuts, if somebody gets a new certification, if they level up, if they, even for personal accomplishments, maybe somebody completed a half marathon, or their kid graduated from college, celebrate, you know, encourage your employees professionally and with what's going on outside of work, because that creates that team feeling that people want to come to work because they know that it's a positive place, and you're filling that cup. Effective recognition programs had a 21% lower voluntary turnover. People are going to stay if they feel appreciated. Praise and commendation from managers was rated the top motivator for performance, beating out cash and non-cash incentives. So, if you can't pay a lot, we work in public service, we're not in it for the money, but you can keep people around if they feel appreciated, they're going to stay because their cups are full. And then lastly, your employees want a challenge. We play sports not because it's easy, but because it's a challenge. We just want to get better every day. Same thing with our professional lives. Most employees want a job that has opportunities to grow and change as they progress in their professional work. So, people like to go back to school. They like to train for marathons or look for new projects. So really think about your employees. Look for opportunities for them to kind of stretch themselves. Whether it's, a new project, a certification, some classes that they want to take, really be supportive of those challenges that they want to take on. In your annual reviews, talk about, what are your plans? What do you want to do next? What's a cool idea that you wanted to try but never have before? And ask about personally and professionally, and help them create goals and work towards those goals to help them challenge themselves professionally. All right, so we talked about managing as a coach, but don't manage like this coach, because coaches can make it fun or they can make it miserable. We probably all had good and bad coaches over the years. Work is hard, it's demanding, we can get really frustrated about it, but it's the coach's attitude that kind of rubs off on everybody else. So as we're talking about all these different things and happy employees, make sure you're a happy manager or happy director for these folks. Kind of lead by example with your good attitude and that kind of thing. I've got a quote from Remember the Titans. Attitude reflects leadership. So make sure your leadership's attitude, that you as a leader, your attitude is a good one. And then remember, this is my last tip. We all like to drink a little something different. My preference is a Diet Dr. Pepper. I know Leslie, she loves a good coffee. Some people are water people or LaCroix or whatever. If your accolades and your conversations and stuff, your employees and how they respond, make sure you tailor the way that you give praise or correct or those sorts of things. Is kind of tailored towards the flavor of the staff member that you're talking with. In a job that I had, the first day you start, you fill out all this paperwork. Well, one of the questions on some of the paperwork I filled out on day one asked the question, how do you know when you do a good job? And so, I kind of got to share like how I would like to receive praise, basically, like, is it with a candy bar? Is it with the big party, or is it just quietly because I don't like to be the center of attention? Like, asking a few of those questions from your employees. How would you like to be recognized? What makes you feel appreciated? Those sorts of questions, and finding out the answers and then appreciating in those ways to help fill up their cups, and then they know that they're special, is a really good practice to make sure that those folks stay happy, and we've hopefully moved some of the folks that were unhappy into our green happy bucket. So that's my last slide. I'm going to turn it back over to Tess, and I think we have one question, and then Leslie will take it.
Yeah, so similar to the way we started the last part of the presentation, we're going to be asking you a question. And the question, you should be seeing it now, is how happy are your water customers? So select the response there that works best for you. I'm just going to give you a couple seconds here to fill this poll out. Looks like almost half of you have voted so far, participated. Okay, and I'm going to close this poll. Looks like we're almost all the way there. Great, so actually the majority of folks today, their customers are pretty happy. They don't have too many unhappy customers. And then another third are sort of happy, half unhappy, half happy. And then just a minority of folks are not really happy, and 0% are either very unhappy or very happy. Okay.
Awesome. Okay. That's good. Well, no matter what level we're at, there's always a little room for improvement.
Okay. Leslie, I think we need to try to get your screen up.
Okay. Let's see. Show screen.
Awesome. Looking good.
Okay, great. Well, thank you everyone for sticking around for the second part of the presentation today. I'm Leslie, and now that Tanya has talked a little bit about how to keep our employees happy, I want to talk about another really important stakeholder at our utility, and that is our customers. How do we keep our customers happy? So I used to work at Walt Disney World Resort, and so when I think about customer service, I think about my days working frontline at Walt Disney World. So I'm going to tell a little story about customers at Disney, but don't worry, we will return soon to the world of public water. Let's see. Oh, my slides. Here we go. Okay. So Disney World, it is the place where dreams come true. It is the happiest place on earth, and Disney has a reputation for great customer service, world-class levels of customer service, and they have a very high customer loyalty level. And this is a reflection of a core value that they install in the culture of their staff of providing above and beyond customer service. So usually when I talk about customers at Disney, people are like, oh yeah, well, that wouldn't it be easy if we were helping customers that, you know, we're at the happiest place on earth. Of course they're happy. But it's not magical pixie dust, you know, and cast members don't have a magical way to make our customers at Walt Disney World any more happy than your public water customers. It takes hard work. So Disney's customers aren't always happy, and they aren't always the easiest people to provide great service for. In fact, there's a lot of hot temperatures in Florida. There's a lot of crowds. There's long lines. Kids are throwing temper tantrums, and there's a very expensive vacation on the line. And all of this equals one large pressure cooker that we like to call Disney Meltdowns. So a Disney meltdown can turn even the most friendly person into a very unpleasant customer. So it's difficult to keep up these high levels of service and perfection that Disney's customers expect from Disney employees. And there were definite days that weren't so magical. Our customers can be very frustrating to deal with at Disney. In fact, I want you to guess what the second most asked question by customers at Walt Disney World Resort is. So the first one, of course, is where's the nearest restroom? But what do you think the second most asked question is? Might surprise you. It is, what time is the 3 o'clock parade? Yeah, let that soak in for a second. Now, on a particularly trying day, a Disney cast member might be tempted to say, well, sir, the 3 o'clock parade starts at 3 o'clock. Have a magical day. But Disney expects more from their employees. Disney prepares their employees to be dealt with these types of questions from customers, and they teach them how they expect their employees to handle the situation. So in our employee training, we're taught that a better answer to this question might be, well, the parade's going to start in Frontierland at 3 o'clock. It's going to make its way around Cinderella's castle at 3:15, and I think you should find a spot right in front of the ice cream parlor around 2:30. It's my favorite spot because you get a nice breeze from the air conditioning at the ice cream parlor. So you see, even the craziest meltdown-driven tourists can have their day turned around by an employee that was willing to go above and beyond to calmly help them. So it's not just as easy as adding pixie dust. It takes employee training. It takes encouragement. It takes trust, empowerment, and leadership by example to really create that culture of great customer service that's going to keep our customers happy. So we'll discuss this more a little later, but happy employees equal happy customers. So if we want our customers to be happy, we got to start with the employees. So today I'm going to talk about these two concepts. We're going back to the world of public water. We're not at Disney anymore. And we're going to talk about how in the public water world we face our own set of frustrations from customers. You may not get questions about what time the parade starts, but how many times have you heard a few of these questions like, why is my water bill so high? Is tap water safe to drink? Or everyone's favorite, why do you charge me for water when it's free in the river? So it's easy to feel frustrated by these types of questions or complaints or comments we get from utility customers, but it's important to remember that part of our work as a public servant is to inform the public. So part of the utility's job is to educate the public on their water service, why it's important, why it's valuable, how much work goes into ensuring water is flowing into our homes, our schools, our businesses. So the utility really needs to start communicating today to ensure that our customers are happier tomorrow. Communication is one of the keys to keeping our customers happy. And I'm not just talking about communicating when there's a main break or a boil advisory, although of course that's important. I'm talking about a constant effort to communicate, build a relationship with, and educate our customers. So today I'm going to talk more about these two concepts, the importance of communicating with our customers and the importance of communicating and empowering our employees to serve our customers, both leading to overall happier customers. So we talked a little bit about the importance of communication. And so why take the time to do it? It's not like water operators and utility staff aren't busy enough. You know, why should they make time to communicate with customers even when it's just business as usual and they really don't have any breaking news to share? Well, the connection between communication and customer happiness and customer satisfaction, that's why we need to communicate with customers. A recent study from the Water Research Center, actually just in 2018, found that the more a utility communicates with its ratepayers, the more the ratepayers agree with the community and utility leaders. So communication builds trust and transparency with our customers. The study also found that customers who received water-related information from mailings or from meetings or serving on committees had perceptions that were more aligned with the utility leaders' concerns. So while most residents were most concerned about, water shortages and high water bills, our utilities were more concerned about deteriorating infrastructure. So once we took the time to inform and educate our customers, we kind of do ourselves a favor because it makes customer relations go a lot more smoothly down the road. So most utilities feel like, the less we hear from our customers, the better. I'm just going to keep quiet, keep my head down, and hopefully it goes well. However, many utilities are surprised to find that once they actually put that effort into communicating the facts about their customers' water, many are surprised to find that the customer actually arrives at the same conclusion. They agree with the utility. So we have convinced you that communication is important, hopefully. How do we do it? So I want to talk about just a couple of ways that we can start communicating with our customers today so they will be overall more satisfied and happier customers tomorrow. So one way we can communicate with customers is to think about where we're already communicating with them. How about on their water bill? We know they're reading that every month. So what can we put in there besides how much they owe us each month? Can you include any awards or charts that show the quality of your water? Let your customers know how often you sample the water and let them know that it's in compliance. And, that might seem like a silly thing to think about once you're in the water industry. Like, of course our water is in compliance. Why would we need to tell them that? but we kind of forget how little our customers actually know about their water. In fact, at a conference Tanya and I were at, a survey found that the average water customer guessed that their water was tested 12 times a year. That's it. That's all they thought that we were testing their water. They're drinking water just 12 times a year. So imagine how pleasantly surprised they will be to know that you're actually testing much more than that to make sure it's safe. What other things can you put in the bill that's helpful? How about ways to detect leaks so you can help them save on their water bill? Or maybe give them alerts to any work that's going to be happening, construction in the neighborhood due to water maintenance. Let them know what they will expect to see and why the work has to be done and how the community will benefit once that construction is complete. Okay, another way that we can communicate with customers is to kind of make over our consumer confidence report. And a lot of utilities are actually kind of renaming their consumer confidence report. Of course, they still have all the information in there that's required by law to communicate with the customers, but a lot of utilities are choosing to call this a water quality report once they hand it over to the customers. It just, you know, it helps customers understand just right off the bat what this report is, and by reading the title alone, it indicates, wow, this is something very important that I should read. This is a great example of kind of a made-over consumer confidence report. It's from waterone.org, and this one just does a really great job of breaking down the information into easy-to-read paragraphs, being very clear about what this report is, why it's important, and it breaks down the information, and it just makes it easier to read. We want to make sure that this is easy to understand for someone who doesn't work in water. And a lot of times, you know, when we live and breathe the water industry, we get used to these terms and technical jargon and acronyms, and so we have to have other people read this to make sure it's still easy to understand for someone who is not in our world all the time. This consumer confidence report or water quality report also does a great job of using visuals to show the value of water or show where the water comes from. Okay, so a third way that we can communicate with our customers and therefore make them happier with our services is to use social media. Only 19% of utilities are using social media, but we need to get out there and start talking on social media because it's not just a place to share pictures of friends anymore. 2/3 of Americans get their news from social media. So this is not only a way to share updates and information to our customers, this is where they're getting their news from. So we'll talk a little bit later, but think of if there's a boil ban, they're not looking at the news, they're not looking at the local news station, they're looking on social media to get that news. So we better make sure it's there. So aside from just, you know, sharing news and updates, social media is a great way to just build a more fun relationship with our customers. This is a Twitter post by DC Water, and they wanted to post because everyone in their community obviously was talking about their championship, the Stanley Cup championship that they had won. So you may think, well, that has nothing to do with water, so we can't join in on that conversation, but you can get creative with it. This is a Facebook post by Water One that wanted to share tips for customers on how to save on their water bill once it's sprinkler season. And so they offered some great tips, and then they also had a video of their staff member and their mascot doing the sprinkler dance, which was pretty entertaining. You'll have to check that out if you've never seen the sprinkler dance. So social media is just a great way to allow customers to see the people that work every day to ensure their water is there, it's safe. It's going to kind of show them that behind the scenes look that they don't get to see. Okay, so fourth way to make sure customers are happy when they need information is to just make sure our website is up to date. This is the first place customers are going to look for when they need information about their water, or they have a question about their water service. So make sure your website is easy to find, it's updated, and you know what information your customers are looking for. Okay, so this is the last way that we can communicate with our customers and really, work on that customer satisfaction and customer relationship. And that is getting face-to-face time with our customers. That's such a unique opportunity from a marketing perspective. Charlotte Water has had really great success with this. They set up tables at local community events and festivals. When there's going to be construction going on in a neighborhood in their town, they set up a table at a place that has really high traffic area, and they just get out there and talk face-to-face with customers. It's a great way to let them know you care and gain their support. Another reason I really like the face-to-face opportunities and kind of the pop-up stands and live events is that it's a good opportunity to learn from your customers and listen to them. Communication is a two-way street. It's not just us talking to customers. We have to be able to listen to customers as well. And, part of being able to satisfy our customers is knowing what's important to them. We really don't know what's important to our customers until we listen to what's important to our customers. Okay, so, rosy outlook, we communicate with our customers, they're all happy. We know that's not going to happen. There's going to be some times where no matter how much we talk to our customers, no matter how much we try to listen to them, there's going to be a service failure. There's going to be an upset customer. So how do we handle that? First of all, never underestimate just the power of a genuine apology on the behalf of the utility. Secondly, we need to respond to these issues very quickly. So make it an expectation that employees are going to follow up with the customer complaint. Really 24 hours or less is kind of the standard these days. And speed is critical to recovery. So we best achieve this if we enable those frontline employees to provide solutions to the customer complaints. We don't want to bog down the process and, have that long chain like, oh, I got to talk to my manager, we'll get back to you. Just allow those frontline employees to offer a solution right then and there. Okay, so leading by example is important. So we can have an innovative culture, a creative culture, even a toxic culture, and it all stems from the behaviors and actions demonstrated by the leaders within the organization. So if we want a culture of great customer service, that has to start with our leadership by setting that example. Obviously, we also need to train those frontline staff. So customers are going to feel a level of reassurance from knowing that the first person they encounter can actually help them. So train these employees to listen closely and focus on a solution that's tailored to each customer's situation. Maybe have a set resolution in place for those complaints you get quite a bit. Maybe they can offer to have someone come look at their water and see where they could save money if there's any leaks. Maybe you could invite the customer in for a scheduled tour of the facility and a chat with the water operator. Okay, so customer is not always right, but they are always your customer. So let them be wrong with dignity. Choose the high road and remain professional and calm. And just remember, we always need to support those employees dealing with those frontline employees dealing with our customers. If they're dealing with rude customers, they need your support. Okay, I'm going to skip that for time. So, key learning points. We have learned that we cannot control when a customer decides that they are unhappy, but we can control how much we communicate with and educate our customers about their water. And your employees are your most important customer. So excellent service is going to start with them and their training. Support them and lead by example. Okay, we have a few minutes left for questions. So I really wanted to get to that, at least 5 minutes left for questions. So Tess, do we have any questions that have come in? And if you do have a question, go ahead and type it in the chat box. Send it our way.
Looks like we're waiting just for a couple questions to come in. While that's happening, I do want to make sure everyone gets the opportunity to answer these last two questions just about our technical assistance and blog. So I'm going to launch those now. and just as quickly as you can, and make sure that you're also thinking of your questions. But take a minute and see what you think about these questions, and we will get to questions as soon as possible. Great, looks like everybody has pretty much chimed in here, so I'm going to be closing this. And then our last question is about our blog and whether or not you'd like to subscribe to our blog. So you just need to select yes or no here, and we'll be able to follow up with you. Okay, I'm closing that. Looks like we're still waiting for questions here. So I'll give everyone a minute to
Problem.
In the meantime, I also have a evaluation link that I need to send out to you. So make sure that you take a look at this when you get a chance. We do have a question coming in. Leslie or Tanya, I think this is for Leslie. The question is just to go back for a few slides to losing customer support isn't as bad as losing an employee. So if we could take another look at that slide, that would be great.
Sure, yes. Is my screen still shared? Are you seeing what I'm? Okay, great. Okay, so so when we have spent all this time investing, like we said with Tanya, and we're talking about our engaged, our all-star employees, we do not want to let them walk out because they can't take dealing with the rude customers anymore. So this is what I was trying to say with, we have to support our employees that are dealing with, sometimes hard to deal with customers. So just make sure that they aren't getting discouraged, and we're giving them the reinforcement and the positive feedback that they need, because it's true. Like, we have a lot of customers, and we have to choose at the end of the day which ones we just cannot satisfy. It's part of the business, any business, but we don't want to let it, destroy all the training and investment we put into a quality staff. It's kind of what that slide means.
Okay, and then I think we have time for one more question. So this last question sort of pertains to unhappy employees. So the question is about, for unhappy employees that have a hard time hearing compliments or accepting recognition for a job well done, how do we take them out of their negative tailspin and help them, kind of reverse that trend? I think that's more for Tanya.
Yeah. So if I'm hearing this or understanding correctly, so there might be two options. One, if someone is just uncomfortable with feedback in front of other people, a lot of people don't want to be like the stars of the show. They don't want to be singled out. So, those awards or a compliment in a big group may not feel good for them. It doesn't fill up their cup. It stresses them out. So, a Post-it note on their desk, an email that says thank you, something private that they can get all those good feels, but doesn't put them in an uncomfortable social situation. And again, that's tailoring those, the ways we fill up their cup to the tastes of the people. But if on the other hand, they're kind of in a negative space and they just can't hear the good stuff because they're just focused on all the bad stuff, maybe take them through a conversation where you kind of, talk about a project or talk about work where you're like, okay, what's working, what's not working, and then through the conversation, show them the stuff that is working, the stuff where they're contributing positively, and show them appreciation for that through that conversation, to maybe help them see that even though there is all this negative stuff on the one hand, there's all this good stuff on the other hand that's working, that's positive. If they just have a negative mindset, that's going to be more difficult. But the more you can reinforce the the positive side of things, hopefully they can kind of switch around their view, and having them kind of come up with those positive things by asking them questions and having them point out the positive things. You know, if they're the ones bringing it up, it might sink in a little better.
Okay, so we have one last question that'll probably need to be quick. But the question is, any suggestions for a younger supervisor dealing with older personnel who have been on a job for a very long time?
Yes. So a lot of times the disconnect comes in that trust and communication part. Kind of the older office model or the older work model is, we got to keep all the information to ourselves because the information is power. And so those older employees may not be sharing experience, talking much, because what they know, they want to keep to themselves because that's what makes them valuable and important. And kind of the new model and what the younger generation sees in the workplace and is been growing in is information. We all share information, and the fact that you share and how you share the information and work as a team makes you more valuable. So they're kind of conflicting ways of working in the workplace. So find ways to connect with those older folks to help them see that their sharing of the information that they know is valuable and because they're sharing it, it doesn't make them less important. Help them understand that when they share, they become more important. So, you know, is it mentoring? Is it, you know, doing a video of how you do things because, you know, we might want to archive this for the future or see how we can make it better. You know, those sorts of ways to really tap into what they know so they can share it in a safe space will build that trust and help you. And because if you're new and you're to the job and you're managing people that have been there forever, you acknowledge the fact that you don't know all the stuff they know. It's your job to get them to share that with you so that you can become better and help them then make the workplace a better place.
Awesome. So I think that we're out of time. If we didn't get to your question, we will follow up with you. And other than that, are there any closing comments from our presenters, Tanya and Leslie?
Nope, that's it. Thank you guys for spending your afternoon with us.
Yeah, send us any questions. We'd love to chat more.
Sure.
All right, thanks everyone. Goodbye.